Hello and welcome again to another session. My name is Arthur Torrington of Windrush Foundation, and today we have a special guest, Juney Muhammad, and let's hear what she has to say.
Yes, hi, thank you for having me today, and I'm here and I'm really looking forward to sharing, well, how am I making a difference in terms of, I've been around for 3-4 decades almost, and what are the cycles that I've seen? And the cycles I've seen is the stigma and discrimination that we still have in our community around poor mental health and mental illness, that we're still really not talking about it the way that we need to talk about it. We still need to be looking at interventions that can make a difference to particular communities who are not adequately served by mainstream services. So one of the things that for me I'm learning is, well, what can we do to change that? And one of the things to do to change that is understand, who are we talking to? What are their journeys? What is going to allow them to listen? So we have to speak into people's listening, that they are not going to feel that fear. They're going to feel like, oh, I'm going to be out of control. Because often when they've experienced mainstream services, they feel like, what are these people going to do with my information? Do they even understand me? And are they going to take me away?
But tell me then, but how did you get into this field though?
So how I got into this field was one day, a lady knocked on my door where I was working in the borough at Lewisham Young Women's Project. And she goes, I'm being forced to go back to work. And these tablets and medication I have to take are still affecting me and I can't go back. And it really dawned on me that people can't speak up about what they're experiencing and how they're being impacted. And for me, in my own family, I had been a carer. I didn't even know I was a carer, living with mental illness within my own home. So understanding how the system works, how the mechanisms are, and that actually, do you really feel listened to? And it doesn't matter how many people are supposed to be a part of that intervention, it's only going to be approached a certain way. So that's how I really got into it. And then I got into it by understanding when we serve the community, our community want to have people to talk to that not just look like them, but they don't have to explain their colloquialisms in the way that they speak, you know?
Yeah, but don't you have to have some kind of a qualification then to move things on?
Of course you do.
So what have you done then?
So what I did was, I am actually qualified as a community and youth worker, but then I developed different qualifications that I can master my understanding of mental health. And I've actually done it by experience, first and foremost, by working alongside psychiatrists, world-renowned psychiatrists for over 35 years in the field. And then I've gone into getting a master's in public health, but I've specialised in promoting good mental health.
So how are things going then in terms of
So how are things really going is the system, and the system always responds in a way that it wants people to have early access into services, but unfortunately our communities tend to come into services very late, when it's often too late and they come in crisis, and then they don't have choices. So for me, in terms of what I'm doing on a practical level, looking at how to respond better, is to have normal conversations with people about what's happening And it was cyclically, what's happening and what can we do differently? So I've been running something called front room therapy. And front room therapy is based just like on our front room, that in our front rooms, we had very important conversations. We had certain types of behavior.
Yeah, but don't you have to have like an office, or do you go to people's place?
No, I don't have to have an office at the moment. I do everything online. What I do is when I do go to places, I'm invited as to do workshops and to work in conferences and groups. One-to-one is often online at this stage. I am not doing face-to-face direct with people at this time because COVID's changed that.
Okay, but people have to come to you then, or how do you go to people?
I tend to go to people. They tend to call me, yeah? Or I am asked by services that know me. So often community groups and different services, they invite me. Mm-hmm. So for example, there are many people who have died at the hands of the state, and they prefer to have a normal service that's going to talk about their well-being than actually go to mainstream services. So I'm offering an alternative to the mainstream services that feels safer for people to approach. Okay. So they said, I want front room therapy.
Mm-hmm. But what is the background? I mean, how are people put in this position? I mean, what causes it?
So often, many people, it's not that they can't say what they're feeling about their experience of being black and being treated very differently. They hold a lot of that inside. And that's a part of, you know, where you don't raise your head above a parapet, that you don't want people to tell you you've got a chip on your shoulder. So the experience of talking to services and to people that don't look like them or understand where they're coming from, and they don't want to feel judged or misinterpreted, that's a lot of the experience. And a lot of our communities have had nurses working in a lot of the NHS facilities.
Yeah, but do you feel then that feeling belonging affects some people and affects, you know, their mental health, or not feeling belong?
I think belonging is actually a protective factor. It's scientific. Whether if you belong, you're more likely to have improved mental health. If you don't belong and you feel isolated or loneliness, you're more likely to have poor mental health, and it will lead to other things. So a lot of our community feel like when you talk to them, especially the young people on the outside looking in, they don't feel a part of it. And that's quite a powerful question that you asked me about belonging. So they belong to maybe groups of people, but in terms of whether they belong in the school is a different question. Whether they belong in their workplace, when they're having poorer outcomes in opportunities, their status, the way they are seen, it's like they feel that they're just expected to suck it up, and it's okay to teach other people to go over you.
So how do you deal with it then?
So what I do is I do my best to mentor people through those difficult patches that they go through, that they can not only recover their sense of self, their identity, and the ego, because the ego gets crushed.
Yeah, but how? I know you think what you could
So how?
Do. Yes.
Oh, through talking. It's a talking therapy. It's through touching base with people on a regular basis that they can have a chance to talk about what's happening, how they're feeling, because often that intuition, that gift of knowing how to speak to people, then it allows people to freely open up and speak to you. So it is very much about making sure people feel that you are journeying with them. And that's how I'm doing it. And one of the ladies who went through a very difficult journey of feeling very oppressed and not listened to in the workplace and marginalised, she said that call she got every Tuesday morning made a whole difference, not to just her day, but that journey. It kept her going, and I could speak into her belief system.
Mm-hmm. But how do you finance that, or how do they finance that? Surely you don't do it for free.
You know, this is a journey about educating our community to learn to pay for talking therapy. It is a journey, and often people have a way of a barter system to make sure finances are covered, opportunities are covered. So we still need to formalise some of the income to make these things happen. But we are on a journey. That is why often mental health services have to be externally funded. Mm-hmm. It's not people are learning they need to be paying for these interventions. So that is still a journey, and we're working on that, especially in these times where everything's a lot more expensive. People are seeing more open and ready to pay now.
Okay, so what kind of feedback then do you get from the work you do?
So the feedback is they like the tools that I'm giving them to maneuver through the feelings that they're having, to come out of being stuck, to come out of the low places. Because I'm not focused on trying to be a medical person. I am talking to them from a practical place. And they're saying, I didn't know that, June. I got caught out. And so they're having tools that make them feel lighter. So the last person I spoke to, they said they feel lighter. They're being challenged in a divorce, and they're a man with status. And just feeling open to have that conversation and affirm what's going on and feel human, like, He said exactly that's what he needed.
Indeed. So you advertise your services then, because people can actually call you up from any part of the country.
Yes, so it's work in process. At the moment, we're working by recommendation, and those people who see my posts are then recommending people. So at the moment, that's what I'm working with. We're still in that process of development because I've always worked for free for so long. Now we have to formalise things, that we can take it further, because I'm telling you, the people have been holding on to trauma and they don't want to hold on to it anymore. They realise.
But is it getting any better or worse?
No, I think we're in a really, I don't know if I would measure it by better or worse, but what I would say, there's a cycle that I can see the great-grandmothers who couldn't speak up about being stuck in a marriage or experiencing domestic violence, yeah, or if they were sexually abused, yeah. When I'm in workshops, they are able to disclose.
But you could have the working with, I suppose, local authorities or particular groups?
No, not necessarily, because we're not working in a medical intervention. We're working in safe spaces where these people want to talk.
Mm-hmm. So in a sense, some of these people are not receiving advice elsewhere, or they're depending on you?
So some of them may be getting, or they've tried formal interventions, and were happy with those interventions, and some of the people have never ever spoken up.
Okay, well look, thank you very much, Juney, and you've been very helpful in terms of our understanding what's going on in the community.
Yes.
And I hope that you can come back another time and we get going and sharing. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you
Thanks
for
very
having
much.
me. Thank you.